Cloud and Clear, the podcast by SADA for innovative business leaders and technology enthusiasts, where we explore how Google Cloud is transforming the industry and what that means to you. Now here's your host, Tony Safoian.
You know, I get really excited every time we have a SADA customer on Cloud and Clear, and today is one of those days. And I also not only have a customer, but I got a special guest with us today who will introduce himself in a minute. But please welcome to Cloud and Clear the CEO at ConnectAndSell, Chris Beall. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, great to be here, Tony.
Thanks for doing this. We're big fans of the platform. I can't wait to talk more about that. But before we go into that, let's let our special guest Billy Franz introduce himself. Billy.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Billy Franz. Glad to be back here, Tony. Thanks for having me. I'm SADA's director of Inside Sales and Channel, which is kind of how we got on the ConnectAndSell platform.
That's right. Not only are we a customer and user of ConnectAndSell, ConnectAndSell is a customer of ours. They run on Google. It's all the wonderful makings of a great episode. So I'm really excited to do this. But before, again, we dive into that, Chris, you've been running ConnectAndSell for over 9 years. We've done a bunch of stuff before that. So can you, for the audience, just sort of give a broader introduction to your background and the evolution of your career, and then, of course, the origin story of ConnectAndSell itself?
Sure, Tony. So I'm a desert rat out of the far deserts of Arizona, raised by, books and animals. I don't think there were very many people in my life growing up. And, my mom used to look out in the desert and say, Chris, plenty of room out in that desert to bury a child. So I think you got a kind of picture of my upbringing right there, that a high standard was set. And, we were expected to kind of perform in my family. I got into physics and mathematics really early, but also psychology, and particularly kind of neuropsych and psychology of perception. And one thing led to another, and I found myself needing a job one day when my first wife had a miscarriage long time ago, and I needed money like tomorrow in order to be able to move away from Arizona. And the only job I could find in one day was selling door-to-door, selling Fuller Brush. And it took me about 1 hour to realize that what they were doing couldn't possibly work in the world we lived in Arizona, where it was 110 degrees out. You knock on the door and you're trying to keep them, put your foot in the door. That doesn't work so good when it's 110 out and the air conditioning's blowing out the door. So I did some math and technology and became the number one Fuller Brush person in Arizona in about 2 weeks. And
how'd you do that?
I broke the sale into two parts. So part one was asking whether I could go research our products, which I'd heard were unusual. Here was my opener. I'm Chris Beall. I'm your new Fuller Brush man. You probably don't know what Fuller Brush is. I sure don't. That was it. And it went from there. And then I'd get their permission to come back if I found something that changed their lives and share it with them. And I had a 92% door to close rate in a world where 4% is a big number. So I realized that sales was something that had been kind of studied but not understood. And then I went off and just kind of became a software guy. I went into the software industry, wrote code, built systems, ran software education training for Martin Marietta at one point, now Lockheed Martin. Went off to Beall Labs and wrote some international standards and did some stuff like that. And then started doing startup. And one more startup. I've been doing them a long time. This is the first one where I didn't invent the product. And it just shows that I suck as an inventor, because this thing is 1,000 times better than anything I ever came up with.
Well, you must be quite an operator then, if not a great inventor, because, the story of ConnectAndSell is amazing. So what is the origin story? And then how did you come on board as the CEO, and how does that all happen?
Well, the origin's kind of funny. It's a guy who will remain nameless in India. I think he may have been chasing a girl. I don't know. And he needed to call back to the U.S., had a list, cut the list up into 6 lists, taped them to a table, put 6 employees at the table, and said, here's a telephone. Hold your finger next to who you're dialing. Do everything except talk to the person. If you get them on the phone, it's them, hold the phone up. I'll grab the phone, see where your finger is, and I'll start talking. And that's how the product was originally invented. And it worked so well that I decided to have it built back here in the States by somebody who was pretty good at building software. And then I got involved when Sean McLaren had come in fairly early on, 2007, wrote $1 million check or whatever in order to join the company as VP of sales. And really, he's a world-class guy. He's the hardest guy I've ever worked with. And he was doing some stuff, raised some money, built the company up to double-digit millions per year in a couple of years, right in the heart of the downturn, 2008, 2009. And in 2011, he just decided he was going to take a little venture money and look for some so-called professional talent, made a mistake and brought me in. I joined the company 5 minutes after meeting this guy, not intending to get a job. And I heard what he had to say. And I said, hang on, you telling me you reinvented the business telephone, call a list in parallel instead of one person at a time, and the mathematical consequence of 10 times increase in the rate of the only thing that counts in business, which is live conversations between somebody with a problem and somebody who might have a solution to that problem. Is that what you're telling me? And he said, yes. And I said, I'm in. And he said, what does that mean? I said, I'm working for you now. What if I'm not hiring? I says, your choice whether you pay me. It's a free country. I recommend it.
You know what? Wait, I'm just drawing a parallel, though, to your door-to-door selling days about how there's a connection, probably what was very instinctual for you very long time ago in your first job in sales and what you saw the platform was delivering, right? That seems like I'm making a connection based on your story. Yeah,
and also the math. I'm a mathematician by background. I did the math. And I said, gosh, I've never seen a $100 billion TAM before. You don't have to multiply very many numbers together to get there. Now, capturing a different matter, right? Because sales is the hardest thing in the world. And when you do sales technology, you're almost always playing directly into future failure. Because even if you fix one thing, there's like 10 other things that got to work. The value chain in sales is long and tenuous. And we know that unless the whole thing works, unless you're free, then you're not making any money. You got a problem. So we've been trying to figure out, and I think have figured out, how to make the whole value chain in sales work. And Billy, you've experienced it. We're on you all the time, right? I mean, it doesn't have much to do with ConnectAndSell, does it?
The platform itself is fantastic. It's essentially allowed our inside sales reps to 4x their productivity and output, both from terms of dials to conversations. I mean, it's almost like I don't know how else to put it other than if you've ever worked at a booth at a trade show and having the hottest commodity or the hottest product and people want to stop by, talk to you about it, but doing that for ConnectAndSell from an outreach standpoint and leveraging our conversations for GCP. Now I've got a super young or very minimal tenured rep that's able to have 4 or 5x the amount of conversations at a faster rate. So now their ability to scale is 4x that, and then now our chances to actually get that rep to sell more is having a huge impact on our revenue. Just by having more conversations, they get better practice, they get more comfortable with Google Cloud Platform, they get more comfortable talking about G Suite to strangers. It's phenomenal.
Because they get that practice.
Yeah. They get the practice. They're not worried about just sitting there punching numbers day in and day out. They're focused on the actual conversation and the technology that Google can provide to their end users, and that is big. So, I can't speak.
So Chris, you know that from an inside sales standpoint, like as far as the Google Cloud ecosystem goes, we have the most ambitious targets ever. I mean, Billy's only just about a year in a role at SADA. Before Billy, we had a distributed kind of methodology around how we would, source business for Google. It was always, the last 5 years, an important metric for us. But he came in and in like 9 months blew it out. I think 149 million in pipeline generated by his brand new organization with a brand new team. This year, we're probably going to double that. And so like the fact that you're our customer had nothing to do, like those things were separated. Like Billy came to me and said, we cannot do what you're trying to do without ConnectAndSell. And I was like, ConnectAndSell, wow, like we have all these other tools. We need another tool. So do you hear that a lot, Chris?
Well, we hear a lot about tools. I'm glad we don't sell one. We got a weapon. And, tools are for gardening. And as far as I can tell, business is war. It's not gardening. So you can go garden all you want with tools, but if you want to win, you need weapons. And there aren't very many of those.
Well, how does this not existed before? Like, I'm like baffled by exponentially better solution this is than like I started my career in I guess in a .com doing some IT work, and then I got fired from that job because they hired a real IT person, and then they put me in front of a phone. Like that was my first experience in selling, was dialing for dollars. It's a miserable experience.
Well, it is. The reason this didn't exist before, I think, was just it wasn't a bad enough problem to solve back when you could make 5-6 phone calls to get somebody on. When it became 15 phone calls in like 2006, 2007, they became worth solving. And the core issue is voicemail. So we all remember back in 2002, 3, 4, when the cost of storage fell through the floor, right? Where storage became essentially free. And so the voicemail systems, the VMXs of the world, the Octels of the world, they had to figure out what to do. And what they did was they convinced their customers to open up their voicemail system to people who were not employees. And so over the next 2 years, 2003, 4, 5, suddenly every salesperson in the world was leaving voicemails. Voicemail was the spam of its time. And what it resulted in is people stopped listening to voicemails. And it dropped off by 30% a year for 3 consecutive years. And then went to 0. So now what? Now you got to have a live conversation with somebody to get them to trust you. They got to trust you with their career. It's B2B. They're not risking their money. You buy a Tesla, you don't like it, you sell it, you're out 10K, right? You buy ConnectAndSell and it sucks, and you're Billy, what does he come and say to you? Hey, bro, I want something that sucks. It's okay. It costs a lot of money and ruin the team. That one doesn't work out so well for his career, right? So when you come right down to it, B2B buying is scary. It requires trust. You got to have conversations. Conversations became unavailable, and you needed the solution. The solution actually popped out very soon after that, 2007. So it really has been around. The trick has been making it scale, making it seamless, and figuring out all the other stuff. Like we've had to go into the business of training reps, doing messaging workshops, helping people with their lists. I mean, there's nothing that we don't do. The only thing we charge for, however, is the dials.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a unique model. We just decided I don't like all those other things as pieces of my business. I don't want to be a training company. I don't want to be a consulting company. I don't want to be a list management purveyor. I don't want to be any of that stuff. I want to be, as Edward Abbey said a long time ago, you want a good driver, strap them to the bumper, right? I want to be a good driver. So I want to be strapped to the bumper where if you fail, we fail, and it hurts really bad right before we fail. And It's scary, right? So we're out there where we do everything. And as Billy knows, we will annoy you to death. If we think your people aren't saying the right thing, if they aren't doing their follow-ups correctly, it's pretty irritating, isn't it, Billy? But it's because we want you to succeed.
Very much so. It's actually been kind of cool. I look at the ConnectAndSell extension team with Shar and John T often. I mean, at this point, it's almost like we're business partners and all going in our strategy get together as customers. But I feel like now I've established a personal relationship with both of them. When they say, hey, Billy, we noticed an uptick in dials here, but your metric in terms of dials to connect or your metric in meeting the follow-up was a little bit higher this week. What's going on there? Can we help back and forth and tailor SADA's pitch for the marketplace? And that's been actually kind of cool, a lot of fun. So
wow.
I'm very, very appreciative.
Chris, I've heard of like training and onboarding programs for various SaaS solutions. It's seldom to get this ingrained into the implementation and the continued usage of the platform that someone's selling in SaaS enterprise software. You've taken it to a different level.
Well, we just had to. We're not nice people or anything. That'd be weird. We're just as mean as we can be. We just can't afford to be very mean. So the way it works is sales fails. That's the nature of sales, right? Sales is just like being a wide receiver, right? Almost everything you would ever try as a wide receiver is going to fail. That's all there is to it. It's a tough connection. It doesn't work very often. There's somebody trying to prevent it all the time. And if you screw up by a little, you lose by a lot. At half a step, you're toast. Turn too early, you're toast. Don't break hard enough on the sideline, you're toast. Everything, you're toast. So in sales, you're toast. And that's what we're selling to, though. And we're displacing 95% of your top of the funnel labor for getting somebody on the phone. That's 95% of your labor becomes my labor. So we're just kind of stuck. And And we don't do the by the seat kind of thing because the unit of value in sales is not the rep, it's the conversation. And we can't do it by the conversation because you don't control your list. So the hybrid is we do it by the dial. That's what we sell by. And that way, that dial represents a unit of our labor. It's about a minute of our labor. And we can arbitrage the difference between our labor, our tech, all of that stuff, and yours. And that's kind of what we do. And it's fair and it works, but it does put us on the hook.
I love that. I love the incentive alignment. Anything that aligns incentives is and if it's done the right way, it's just such a powerful mechanism. And, again, not too dissimilar to, I think, when we sell GCP or G Suite or other things, like, your usage of GCP is going to only increase if your business is more successful over time, right? So there's a bunch of things that we do. But before we talk about SADA, as I guess you're on the other side, as your vendor, your partner on the other side, it's like Google Cloud. How did you land and your organization land on the decision for to invest in Google Cloud versus other clouds?
Well, we went to AWS first. That was our first big cloud move. So we came out of where we were hosted at a hosting center. And we said, no, we want to get to the cloud. It's a little bit tricky because of the way our system works. We do our own telephony out of our servers. So we got to have a tight pipe to multiple carriers. We normally use 7 or 8, 9 of them. We do it dynamically. And it's all of our own stuff that's running it. So it's not like, just plug some Twilio in and hope for the best, right? That doesn't work because ConnectAndSell's got to be instantaneous. Somebody has to push a button 10,000 miles away. And one of Billy's people has had 2 things happen within a split second. One on the screen and one in their ear, and it has to be synchronized. So it's non-trivial tech. It looks trivial. It looks easy, like Uber, push a button, talk to somebody. How hard is this, right? Well, it's kind of hard under the covers to make that stuff work in a browser and a telephone. So we went to AWS. That was all fine. We got all that done. And then one day I was at the Outbound conference in Atlanta. Jeb Blunt, Anthony Iannarino, Mike Weinberg, Mark Hunter put on this thing. I call them the 4 Horsemen of Outbound. And we were not the platinum sponsor, but we were like the open video, which I didn't know. So that was a surprise gift to me that these guys put on. Well, the guy sitting next to me, his name is Larry. He gets bumped out of the front row because he doesn't have a VIP badge. But it turns out he's the head of strategy and partnerships for Google Cloud. His name's LJ Irwin. So I put my badge around his neck, and then the video starts. And it's me talking to the audience. And so the security guard freaks out and walks away. And Larry's not being profiled anymore, and that's cool. So Larry asked me, he says, what do you guys do? And I said, well, I don't want to tell you, but I'll show you. He says, what do you mean? You're going to do a demo? I said, not a demo, I'll sell it for you. Pick somebody out at lunch. So he picked somebody out at lunch, and I went and sold ConnectAndSell to him so that LJ could listen. And that's how we formed the relationship.
Wow.
And that turned into one of our best customers, Kaiser Compressors. It's an outstanding customer, big German compressor company, makes industrial air compressors, which, by the way, we never would sell to. They're not our cup of tea. And now I'm totally in love with those guys. Matt McCorkle and the guys over there are just beyond belief good. And then LJ called me a week later and said, we've come to the conclusion here at Google where you do know we know everything, right? And I said, yeah, I've heard. And he says, we've come to the conclusion you're the most interesting company in Silicon Valley. I said, why is that? He says, well, your reputation's like a 9.5 out of 10. And in sales tech, next down is probably a 4. And you guys are, the company, he didn't say company, he says, you're old. And I said, what do you mean? The company's only 14 years old. He says, no, not the company. He says, you are old. I said, well, why is that relevant? He says, because in Silicon Valley, if you're young, you can buy your revenue. But if you're old, you got to earn it.
Wow.
And so I said, well, that's interesting. So we started talking. He said, we would like to work with you because our model is you come over to GCP and we'll help you sell your product because that makes everybody money. And I was like, well, AWS ain't offering me that. They're not even interested in that kind of thing. So can we do a test drive? He says, yeah, are you on GCP yet? I said, no. He says, well, I don't recommend doing a test drive quite yet. Why don't you come on over first? So I called my CTO and He said it'd take a few weeks, and we worked with you guys. It was a fantastic experience working with SADA. It was just like our own team right from the beginning. Never any question of who was on whose side and who was doing what. We're not that easy to work with. I'm an old programmer myself, so that can't be good. And, we came over in a few weeks. I don't think it was more than 3 or 4 weeks. And we have 14 production systems we brought over. And this is everything for us. This is life and death. If this stuff doesn't work in every way, we are toast. Our customers have names kind of like SAP, IBM, and stuff like that. And they have a low tolerance for things that used to work suddenly not working. So anyway, came over, and we actually were going to do a test drive with GCP in Austin, but we got to do one with you guys first. And it was just fantastic. It was just one of those, come down to Austin and just have a great day. Billy and the team were off the charts good, enthusiastic. He's tough. In case you ever wonder if he's tough, pretty tough. And I don't know, I think a few $1 million of pipeline might have come into existence that day. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tens of millions.
Yeah, no, and Google cannot be more excited because we're exclusive to Google now, and that was a deliberate decision. But in a lot of ways, we are an extension of them. So that the concept that they have a partner that is so serious about sourcing that they are using the best in class platform on the planet, and then this wonderful commercial experience where we're also, by the way, like, part of the reason we want to serve customers for whose platforms we're a fan of, like, we absolutely want to make sure you have the best tech stack and the best experience around the technology. And we also believe, maybe biasly, that we're in the best position to make sure that happens. So we love that alignment and joint accountability for one another's success. So I get proud every time a customer talks about the good experience with SADA. And I think culturally that alignment is just clear in terms of how Billy speaks about you and your organization. And I know the success that we're driving there now, the way you're speaking about us and our engineering team. So that's really quite fantastic. And I also by the way, I just love, Chris, I could listen to you tell stories about anything because the way you articulate history is quite interesting.
Well, I won't tell the one about my mom putting a monkey in the freezer quite yet, but someday we'll get to that one, okay?
Tell me a little more about what do you think the next 5 years are going to be like for the cloud, for your customers. I know it's a very challenging time right now. There's all sorts of issues. We won't dive too deeply into those, but let's just say there's acceleration of cloud adoption, but also kind of masked in a lot of uncertainty. But what are you seeing from your side? Because actually, your platform has an interesting point of view.
Yeah. So, what I'm seeing is that the biggest change that we're seeing, and we just saw it, nobody gets it yet, is that work from home is now the standard for knowledge work. It's no longer a privilege or a perk. And when Satya Nadella comes out and says, we're seeing 20% increase in productivity, and, I've been a CFO before, so I know what CFOs hate, right? CFOs hate leases more than anything in the world. They hate building leases, and they hate everything that comes with them because that millstone around your neck doesn't want to leave any too soon. So when business goes up and down, you're stuck with the lease. When we came in and did stuff with you guys, you were in a WeWork. That's super smart. That's like,
Yeah.
Because you're
also a customer of SADA's, and we've used them for every other flexible office expansion that we've done in 8 other cities outside of LA.
Yeah, so it's the beginning of something that's totally new. I calculate about $1.5 trillion a year are locked up in nothing more than the time spent commuting. 1.5 trillion a year have just been unlocked. So that alone changes things. So here's what I think is going to happen. One, work from home never goes back. So we will come out of all this COVID stuff at some point. I happen to be a mathematician, so I would rather have slower with fewer people dead than faster with more people dead. That's all. I'd rather, it's just math. I have an opinion about it. Math has an opinion. But regardless, we come out of it at some point, and we're already coming out in little ways, right? I mean, I was out walking today, and there's construction everywhere. It's like all the construction constructing, right? It was a little irritating, but then I thought, no, that's good. That's the economy working. So that's going to change everything because suddenly talent is liquid and you can hire anybody from anywhere. That totally changes the talent market, which is the market. Without cloud, work from home never would have worked because you couldn't have inverted everybody's technical workspace so that they're home and they're coming in through some stupid firewall into God knows what that's hosted here, there, and the other place. So it was actually cloud that allowed folks to move home, and cloud in the platform sense and cloud in the app on platform sense. So we're a good example. We're an app on platform, right? So we're on GCP. We had 104 customers go work from home in March. Not one of them called and asked for help. And as you know, we see their productivity on a minute by minute by minute basis. We have a front row seat for sales productivity. Not one of them missed 1 minute of productivity, and they're up on average 40% meetings per day per rep.
Wow. 40% since work from home hit?
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's $7.8 million that we've delivered since work from home hit. And we have it down to the day for each one of our customers. We keep track of that.
That is fantastic. That's why I thought I'd ask you, because you do have that unique, correlation. The data you see is correlated directly to not only productivity, but economic output at the end of the day. Because as you said, sales leads to everything else. That is quite remarkable. Well, what a story. I know this is the beginning of our relationship. In a lot of ways, it's only been a few months. I wish you tons and tons of success. I'm so happy to meet you and to have you as a guest on Cloud and Clear. Billy, thanks for coming in and supporting.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tony. Appreciate it. Chris, it's awesome working with you day in and day out, bud. Love your team. Fantastic to work with. I love it.
All right. Well, I love working with you. I love working with you. And I'm looking forward to you guys being our first approved success story in the GCP partnership, because that's what we're putting in right now. Just today, we're doing it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I can't wait for that. And any other way we can support you in the future, we're here for you. Not because you're nice, but because your platform is amazing and you guys are wonderful to work with.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks for being my guest.
Thank you for listening to Cloud and Clear. Check the show notes for links to this week's topics. And don't forget to connect with us on Twitter @CloudandClear and our website, sada.com. Be sure to rate and review the show on your favorite podcast app.